This is the moment we've all been waiting for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Let's get ready to
NBA free agency began at 6 p.m. on Sunday, and the Cleveland Cavaliers may or may not be aware of this. They are one of just a few remaining teams to make 0 moves up to this point, so you can guarantee that a move will happen as I'm recording this or immediately after uploading. But before anyone starts panicking, which it might be a little too late to say that, let's keep in mind it has not even been a full 24 hours since the floodgates opened, and nothing too spectacular has happened across the NBA. The Cavs have missed on a few free agents who would have been on my wish list, but they haven't fumbled anything unbelievable so far. I mean, seriously, am I supposed to lose sleep over Jalen Smith? He's a useful backup big with some floor spacing potential, but the guy was getting benched in the playoffs, and he probably wasn't going to move the needle in a serious way for the Cavs, even if I would have liked to have him for depth purposes. And that's really true for most of the free agents who were available. I mentioned this throughout a video I did recently where me and Jackson talked about almost 20 different free agency targets. I'll put that list on screen right now, and you can see there are very few guys who are worth getting excited for. And again, some of them would absolutely help pad Cleveland's depth, and I am a little disappointed to miss out on them, but this isn't the end of the world. In fact, I would genuinely say that Jalen Tyson, the Cavaliers' most recent draft pick, could easily become a more helpful player than anyone on that list within the next few years. So if you are judging this offseason by the talent they added, we have to wait and see how Tyson will factor into that. And of course, there's a long summer ahead of us. The Cavs could very well get involved in other deals later in the summer. Keep in mind, they didn't make the move for Donovan Mitchell until September, and last year, Damian Lillard was traded around the same time. This stuff can take time, so let's not rush to conclusions in the first 24 hours of the offseason. So far, the Cavs have hired a new coach and drafted someone with the potential to be a 6'6" 3-level scorer, so it's not all doom and gloom. But shifting to one thing that has genuinely caught my interest or concern, what's taking so long for Donovan Mitchell to sign an extension? All signs point towards Mitchell extending. The general consensus has shifted drastically from earlier in the year when it was the worst kept secret that Mitchell would leave Cleveland as soon as possible. That has all changed. The narrative has completely shifted, and most recent reports all seem to suggest that the Cavs are in a position to lock down Mitchell for the foreseeable future, but this hasn't happened yet, and I think Cavs fans are feeling a little LBJ PTSD. Kobe Altman said today that the Cavs feel good about their relationship with Mitchell and they hope to have a decision soon, and that was enough to start an earthquake on Cavs Twitter. I understand why those comments might concern you. They aren't as optimistic or strong enough to feel ecstatic about the idea of Mitchell re-signing, but I don't think we need to jump to the worst possible conclusion. Again, I think it's worth keeping in mind how suddenly and abruptly the rumor mill around Mitchell came to a halt. No one is whispering about him leaving Cleveland this summer, and while nothing short of a contract extension will solidify this and put us all at ease, let's just hold out on being so concerned. We'll find out soon enough, and unless those whispers come back, then I think we can rest assured a deal will be announced in due time. But with that said, I am going to do a little bit of speculating. I want to be clear, this is 100% my own speculation. I am just doing some thinking out loud. What exactly is taking Mitchell so long to sign this extension? Well, Kobe Altman and Kenny Atkinson were in LA with Mitchell yesterday, and no deal was made, so what is holding them up? One thing that I'm sure everyone can assume or wonder is Mitchell urging the Cavs to be more aggressive in improving the roster before he commits to an extension? Is Mitchell applying pressure to the Cavs front office to make a big swing and potentially trade a member of the core? This is something that we keep seeing floated on Twitter, and it's certainly a possibility. Now, we know from reports that Mitchell does not want his BFF, Jarrett Allen, to be traded, but is Mitchell waiting for Darius Garland to be moved? Does he simply want the supporting cast to be shuffled? Or is all of this irrelevant and Mitchell just hasn't signed a deal because he's busy running his youth camp in LA right now? All of this is possible, and as I've said a bunch already, we don't need to jump to conclusions. We will find out the truth in a short matter of time. And I just want to end all this by repeating a bit of what I said in another recent video about the core four, and that is patience is key. You look at the big moves that have been made this summer with Paul George heading to Philly and Mikal Bridges going to New York. The Cavs simply could not have completed either of those deals. George was dead set on joining the 76ers, while the Knicks gave up 5 first-round picks to get Bridges. Now, the Cavs don't have a first-round pick until 2030, so that just wasn't a realistic move for them. And the only other move that has been floated out there for the Cavs would be trading for Brandon Ingram, but as I've said a billion times, you can't make that trade unless you feel confident that Ingram will push you over the top as a contender. And I personally don't see any reason to believe Brandon Ingram is that caliber of player. If you can do a straight swap of him and Jarrett Allen, then that's more intriguing to me. But if you have to give up Darius Garland or both Garland and Allen, then I'm hanging up the phone. And so I know why people are feeling antsy about teams like New York and Philly taking big swings while the Cavs remain silent. But here's the thing. The Cavs made their big swing 2 years ago when they traded for Donovan Mitchell. They made that swing with the assumption or the bet that Garland, Mobley, and Allen will flourish alongside Mitchell and create a contender with 4 all-star caliber players. So far, that has not happened as gracefully as the Cavs would have hoped. Injuries, stagnation, an ill-fitting supporting cast, and perhaps even some coaching limitations have all played a role in this, but let's be clear, Mitchell, Garland, and Allen have each had the best seasons of their careers together. Garland was at his best in his first year with Mitchell, while Mitchell and Allen both arguably had their best seasons this year. So clearly there's some talent here to work with. Had they been healthy, the Cavs legitimately stood a chance at pushing Boston to 6 or 7 games just a few months ago. So while I completely understand the urgency to make a move and keep up with the rest of the NBA, it's entirely possible that the potential ceiling of the core four is still higher than anything the Cavs could realistically acquire this offseason. Betting on that internal growth is what made them take a swing on Mitchell in the first place, and it seems to be what they are most comfortable doing this summer. And now tying this back to what I said about Mitchell and his extension, because this is the one non-negotiable factor in all of this, if Mitchell is holding out because he wants to see changes, then you have to cave to his will. I'm sorry, but I'm seeing people who want to trade Mitchell and restart around Garland and Mobley. Yeah, right, guys. I mean, come on. There's no championship window without Donovan Mitchell. You need to keep him at all costs. You are not winning a chip by letting Mitchell walk. So again, this is speculation, but you have to make a move if Mitchell is pushing for one. And if he isn't, then patience is a reasonable approach to this situation. It kind of just comes down to what does Donovan Mitchell want? And I'm sure we will find out what he wants this summer for better or worse. To wrap up all of my thoughts, there's still some small scale moves the Cavs can make. There's a couple free agents who are on my list who are still available. And honestly, it is inexcusable if the Cavs roll into next season with the exact same supporting cast. Fixing the bench is more important to me than splitting up the core four. I get the case for splitting up the core, and you could convince me if the right deal becomes available, but again, I have not seen that deal. It's really the supporting cast that needs to be reworked, in my opinion, whether it's through free agency or a smaller scale trade. This is something that needs to be done, and I will be watching out for that. And then you have to sign Mitchell to an extension, whatever the cost may be. That's the only other way I'm splitting up the core, is if Mitchell is demanding it, which, to be clear, it is not something that we have any reason to believe. That is purely 100% speculation. There have been absolutely no reports that Mitchell is doing that. I can't repeat that enough, but it is something to keep in mind as we move through the summer. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Junkyard Pod. As always, I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please drop a like and hit subscribe. It helps a lot. And leave a comment with how you feel about the Cavs offseason so far. Are they doing enough? Do you think I'm being too optimistic? And should the Cavs be feeling more urgency than I am? Let me know. I would love to hear your takes. And with all that being said, go Cavs.